If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? CEO Mischief Makers, welcome back to the conversation. It's Wednesday, and we're talking about impact and innovation with my dear friend, because let me tell you, our last conversation, if you haven't listened to it yet, has made him absolutely dear to me. He's preaching to the choir, I'm telling you right now. Mr. Hersh Rephun. Hey there, Hersh. You ready?
Hey, good to see you again, MK.
Yeah, we're ready to rock this, right? Because you set us right up for from the last episode. You need to go listen to that because basically, let me ask you this. So just as an introduction, if people haven't heard this show before, and this is the first time you heard it, when I talk about innovation, I'm not talking about the Elon Musks and the Steve Jobs of the world. I'm talking about each of us. We each have innovation when we bring ourselves into what we do and actually innovate the space we inhabit right now, the business space. Mm-hmm. So what Hersh was talking about last time was how his messaging is very personalized, very specific. And when you actually embrace and say, hey, this is who I am, and I'm going to put who I am out there, and then other people who are similar or need that will come to me. So how do you do that, Hersh, when you're talking about messaging specifically? What part of you do you think actually enables you to be so good at messaging for your customers and your clients and actually listen to what they need? Like you mentioned, an hour and a half conversation and you uncover what that client actually does. What about you and your previous experience has enabled you to be so good at that?
Well, thank you for framing it that way. And I do think that it is a long history of mimicry, first of all, which is only part of the story. But when I was a little kid, I inherited from my dad, who was great at this too, the ability to do dialects and voices and impressions of people. But there was something that kept me from being an impressionist. Even when I was doing stand-up comedy, I didn't want to be billed as an impressionist. It was not that I was doing something so incredibly accurate. It was just an impression. And I think when I listen to people, I have an ear for what they're saying, but where it goes deeper is that I have an ear for what they mean. And I didn't realize that until I started doing it with clients. Because there's one thing to say, and it did show up in the comedy. Because what I would do is I wouldn't do when I did do characters or impressions, I wouldn't do the exact thing that actor or that character did. I would apply it to a different situation. So like I had a bit where I did Scarface, but it was Scarface as a comedian. And the irony of it was obvious, but the fun of it was you're taking something that somebody did and you're applying it. So when I would listen to a client and they would tell me about their business and who they are, I would hear the application of it to their audience and the words maybe that they could use that might be better or stronger. And where you talk about innovation, there's two really good points. One is that everybody is by definition an individual. They're unique. They're not the same as anybody else, and they shouldn't try to be. So everybody has that special spark. So now the question is, how do you apply it? So, I apply that skill set that I have to helping their messaging improve and helping their messages sharpen, and also figure out what strategy works, because a different person should be using a different messaging strategy. Maybe the platforms they're on should be different. Maybe the way that they communicate, maybe they're better in long form or they're better in short form. So for me, that's how I apply it.
Wow, that's perfect. I had a feeling that that was kind of where it would come from for you
Yeah.
because comedy requires that. It requires
Yeah.
incredible listening skills, incredible understanding, and putting yourself in a different person's shoes or in a different place, and tapping into a different part of yourself that you don't carry around. That's why you're not constantly making jokes. I don't think Robin Williams was able to get out of that persona so much when you see clips of him, right? He
Well,
he was always there.
as a person, I had the opportunity to see him, you know, in person a couple of times, like just being in LA, living in LA at the time,
Yeah,
and and anytime I saw him not on stage, he was just very quiet and sweet, and I think a little uncomfortable, you know,
yeah,
because those voices, those characters, the energy, the mile a minute way his mind
yeah,
processed information was a way to avoid that discomfort in the 20 mile an hour zone where you're just kind of moving, you know.
yeah,
um
yeah,
and so I think the impression I got was that he needed to be protected or shielded, um, not in like an extreme way, but just the attention is that's the irony, is that the attention that he warranted was probably more than he would like, you know.
yeah, yeah. And would use the comedy as a shield against that. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. That's amazing. And I got to tell you, this is a perfect example of how innovation makes us not really have any competition. So just really quickly,
Right.
you and I do the same things, right? You and I do the same things in terms of messaging and conversations. But my innovation comes from a very different place. And it has a
Yeah.
very different intuition about it than yours does. And so our processing is different. The way I communicate it, it's different. Mine comes from trauma, basically. When I was young, I had to pay very close attention to the people around me to know whether or not I was going to be safe and whether or not
Uh-huh.
I needed to change the way I communicated in order to have a different outcome to my situation. So I developed, not only is that an intuition of mine, just observing, I'm a highly observant person. Not only is that a basic intuition, but I honed that skill to be able to navigate my
Yeah.
childhood and teenage years. So I have that intuition. I've been able to apply it to helping people figure out their messaging, exactly the same thing that you do, but I come from a very different perspective. So
Sure.
even though
Yeah.
we can do the same thing, we innovate our space completely differently, so that there
Hmm.
is no way that we compete with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, I have clients that are in the creative space. So I have clients who are writers and artists and filmmakers and cinematographers and editors, all people from the film industry. And one of the reasons that I think I'm able to help them with their message, even though, in many cases, let's say if they're in the commercial filmmaking space or production or creative agencies, their job is to communicate on behalf of their client, and
Yeah,
I'm still able to get in touch with their perspective and who they are and their brand, even though they're doing that for other people, because I, in my mind, for whatever reason, I'm relating to them, maybe even to their struggle and what they have to do. And so it's a
yeah.
very empathetic kind of meta experience for me.
Yeah, yeah. And those people are attracted to you because of your previous experience and the
Right.
way you look at messaging. And they
Right.
get it. They feel a kinship to you because you've been there, you've done that, you get their industry.
Yeah.
And that's it. That makes innovation so much easier. Wow. So
Yeah.
is that who you want to impact? Is that really because you also do coaches and things like that. So you talked about more spiritual side, but then you also talked about the entertainment industry. So what ultimately is your impact in this world? Where are you
Yeah,
wanting to
I
impact?
would. Well, I would. qualify the entertainment aspect to say that I find myself drawn to helping people who are helping fix the world. So if they're filmmakers, maybe their films have a message. If they're making documentaries, or they're producing content, their goal is to have a positive impact. And so by helping the message, I'm helping them get their work in front of more people, basically. If they're a coach or a consultant or in some way, even if they're in the financial sector, they're trying to help people hold on to their income. They're helping people, figure out how to not get in a deep, hole and lose their home or whatever it might be. So I think that's why I say, my people are, heart-centered movers. They're ambitious. They want to accomplish things, and there's nothing wrong with, earning money and taking care of your family and doing all those things, because it's very hard to move the world in a positive direction without money and influence and other things. So, but they're definitely people who feel compelled to use what they have for the good of the world, and that is just, I think, what resonates with me. I just and I think sometimes it takes us a while to even own that, because we feel like it either sounds presumptuous, or like when people started using the word purpose driven, and they would say, oh, purpose driven brand is something that it has a higher purpose, right? Whereas a nonprofit is not making a profit, and that's a very different categorization. But there are for-profit businesses that are very purpose driven. And so I was very attuned to that stuff. I always, when I was working with clients, even big brands, I was always very engaged in their charitable partnerships. Why? Because it was a good thing that a big company with a lot of money could do to make the world a better place. They might make shoes that help people's feet. You know what I mean? Like they might be doing stuff that helps people have more fun or stay safe or whatever. But then they also had these very, very specific charitable relationships. And that was always a real fun and interesting and rewarding avenue for me.
Yeah, fantastic. So, how long have you been doing this message therapist? How long have
A
you has that
million
been your focus?
years. Yeah, no,
I mean, recently as a business.
yeah, as a business, it's like the name has been floating around for about a year, but um, but it is how I've operated for my whole career. So 20, 30 years, I've been doing this with different clients in different industries, but I just never could put my finger on what it was. I just always knew that whatever I was saying myself or my company was missing something. It was missing something because I was agnostic about whether I would work with what we'd call a personal brand, which could be any consultant or specialist or coach or speaker. Author is a personal brand, um, or a corporate brand. So I could work with a corporate brand that makes $1 billion a year, and I would be fine. But I also felt like, I kind of want to have that one-on-one relationship. That's
Yeah,
what I want to
definitely.
do right now, and
Yeah.
that's where message therapy became much more of a moniker, because Nike doesn't need message therapy from one individual. They're not going to work that
Mhm.
way. You know, I've done work for Nike, but I just felt like not in that capacity. I would just,
Yeah.
they would just hire me to write things that they needed written, and it's like they don't need me to sit down with them and talk to them for 90 minutes.
Figure out their messaging. Yeah, definitely. I think
Yeah.
that's an iconic brand that has a pretty strong movement behind them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, where are you innovating to next? Because I know with what you're talking about, let me just kind of preface this for everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
All of the personas you have inhabited and the different things that you can do well have led you to here now embracing this one thing. But I also know that people who have that ability to do many different things and have that much more diverse personality are constantly moving toward the next thing or something else, or even getting more niched or more specific to something else. So is there something else you are innovating, someplace else you are innovating your own business or life that you're kind of headed to next?
Well, there is. Well, what I would have, I preface it by saying I would have liked. I saw that BMW did this awesome commercial in the Super Bowl, and because I still work with people in the commercial industry, I did have clients with commercials on the Super Bowl, but the BMW one, where all those people were doing walk-in impressions, I felt like that should have been my innovation. Would have been to bring, message therapy in Christopher Walken's voice would have been like wild. Would have liked that to do that. No, but I just felt compelled to throw that out there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my
But
gosh.
the thing that I'm working on now is a book. Is my first book. I've written in every other medium that there is, and this is the first book, and it's a semoir, meaning it's a semi memoir. I'm writing stories from my life that pertain to my views on business and life, and how to truly be yourself. And it's called Selling the Truth. And that's the innovation that I'm engaged in now, that I feel is something that is beyond a job description, right? It's more of a way of life. And I think that's kind of the innovation that I have my passion in right now.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit ceomischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.